Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. As you can see here, I'm still potting my tomatoes, but somebody gave me the idea of using toilet rolls for plant tubes, and as you can see, they work pretty darn good. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you how I did it, okay? You take a toilet roll, and you cut about a third of the way up, and then you turn it around and do exactly on the opposite side. Do it again. And then again between the two. And again on the other side. So it's pretty much in quarter sections. And then we're going to fold it kind of like you would a packing box. You're going to put the first one down, then the next one down, then the third one down in a spiral. And the fourth one, you're going to hold your finger and you're going to let this back up just a bit to tuck, to tuck that side into the spiral, and then you're just going to press it down. And there you have your box bottom. So you just flip it over, and we're just going to take one of our tomato plants, and we're just going to drop it right down in the bottom, because remember, all these little hairs on the stem have the potential to be roots. So we're going to drop some soil down in there and down in there. And we're going to pull Buddy over a little bit because we want him to be as centered as possible. And you just want his leaves to be near the top. I'm going to drop some of this in with the eggshells in it and all that stuff. Let me just give him a little tug. Not too hard. You don't want to yank him off his pins there. A little bit more dirt. Oh. There we go. And you snug that dirt right up to those very first leaves. You give him a little drinky poo. And Bob's your uncle. You have wonderful seed cells for your plantings. Okay, thank you. Alright folks, I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my celery. I've had a lot of people tell me they've had no luck growing celery. And once you grow your own celery, you can do like you did with the onions. When you harvest it, you can cut the bottom off and replant it in the house. But celery, I think the reason people don't have a lot of luck with celery is because they're so very, very delicate. They're so very tiny when they grow. So all I do is I get one of these, I put some soil in it, and I moisten the soil, and I just scatter the seeds on top. They're very, very tiny. And when they get to this size, you can transplant them. It's a little tricky, but it's not bad. So I'm using a pill bottle for my little plugs, my little paper pots. And I'm only doing it single thickness because it is much smaller and it'll more apt to fall apart because the bottom will be too thick. So we're just using the same template but only in a smaller format. And we're just going to take our corner, and this corner is kind of really important because it helps it from rolling, unrolling at the top. All right, so we're just going to make our little plug here. We're going to pull the, of course, it never works when you're doing it on camera, right? We just pull that out there, and you want to hold it down. And then we're just going to put some soil in the bottom. I'm making a heck of a mess on my kitchen table. But you're going to pretty much fill it and pack it down fairly tight. Celery is a water lover, folks. So if you live in a really dry region, unless you have an abundance of water, I would not plant celery. But now we got this packed down pretty good. And now I'm just going to make a little hole in there with my finger. And here was our little celery plant, and I'm just going to take it with the back of the spoon and break around it and just make a little plug with the roots and just pop it in the hole just like that. And if that's a bit of root, then we'll top that down in. They're delicate, but they're pretty tough. Once they're in there, they're pretty good. Now I'm just going to I'm going to be able to fit 9 in one of these little mushroom things. Right? And we're just going to give it a little drink so that it'll be happy. And that's how you transplant your celery. So when these are ready to go in the ground, we'll plant them right up to the first leaf, the first set of leaves. Not the baby leaves, but the first real leaf. Okay, now we've gone back to the bigger paper pots for the cabbage. Now cabbage, things like cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, they like really tightly packed soil. So when they go in the ground, you really press the soil down hard. So for our soil pots, or our paper pots, I've gone back to the same kind I did with the tomatoes, with the double paper bottom so that it is nice. I can pack it nice and tight. And we're just going to do what we did with the celery. Here's our cabbage plants. See, they don't really like being all... Let's see if we can find his little root ball here. There we go. We want him to go right down nice and deep. Right down in there. We're just going to pack that nice and tight in there. Because we don't want these guys to be too leggy either. And that is what I'm doing with my cabbage plants. A little bit of water in there. And 4 of these will fit in one of these mushroom tubs. Look at how wonderful our green onions are doing. Yep. These are the ones that I cut the bottoms off from the grocery store and transferred. When I was pregnant with my first son, Arthur, I got this cookie jar as a Christmas gift. And I vowed that one day he would have this cookie jar when he got older. Unfortunately, it got broken. The top did. So I'm just going to put these broken bits in the bottom of this cookie jar as a drainage thing instead of rocks. And I'm just going to fill this up with some lovely potting soil. And I'm going to transplant my green onions in here. There we go. Maybe someday I will still give it to my son, but I will just give it to him with onions in it. And he can have them in his kitchen, and he'll still have his cookie jar. I know, I'm a sentimental fool. Briar has a cookie jar. It's an elephant. We all have cookie jars. I used to have a cookie jar collection, but my mother-in-law stopped buying them for me when I started giving them away. There we go. Let's just take our onions and start popping them in the cookie jar. Isn't that lovely? Another, I'm going to wipe this down, another repurposed project. A broken cookie jar turned into an onion planter. How cool is that? Let's give it some water so that, because we've disturbed the roots, and if you disturb the roots, they should always be watered. Why? Because the roots will have air pockets and will dry, and it will make your plants struggle. So if you transplant or disturb the roots, always water them. And there we go. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, I love spring and I love repurpose projects. I love growing stuff. That's true. I love growing stuff. Take care. Bye-bye.